Friends, we are now on to the last English session on this platform in this venue, which is a very special session with a very, very trailblazing designer who has worked with some of the finest fashion icons of the world and is from South Asia and rarely visits this part of the world. And this is the only literature festival he is doing. And this is Prabal Gurung, who is going to speak about his memoirs, Walk Like a Girl. He will be in conversation with veteran fashion journalist Shefalee Vasudev, who had her own book launch a little while earlier. Over to you, Shefalee, and I welcome Prabal, who at present is engulfed amid a lot of his admirers. Over to you, Shefalee.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Malvika. Prabal Gurung, she already used words of trailblazing designer from South Asia. I have some other words for Prabal. The book, Walk Like a Girl, is perhaps the most gender-reasonable book that I have read in a long time. It comes from a man, talks about gender affirmation, femininity, feminism, masculinity, without any aggression in any of these transpositions. And I urge you to read the book as a memoir of vulnerability, of a man, of a designer, of a Nepali-born boy once called Kanchu and still called Kanchu by his mom, who has shared with honesty and without belaboring that honesty episodes of his life and his struggles. So Kanchu, Prabal Gurung, who I've had the pleasure and delight of interviewing earlier as an editor, welcome to this forum. And let's first talk about the title, reversing the order I thought I would have for you. Why walk like a girl, not look like a girl, sit like a girl, be like a girl? Who's walking here?
First of all, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. And thank you for that lovely introduction. Trust me, it's not that boring. Trust me. We talk about walk like a girl, like a girl in itself. It was a term used pejoratively against me to diminish my existence. Oftentimes in a society that we live, anything that is feminine leaning is considered weak. Anything that feels, soft and vulnerable is considered opposite of what you're supposed to be. And I felt like my entire existence was surrounded by women in a culture that I grew up in, where even in the mythology, women were celebrated, whether it's Durga Ma, which happens to be my mother's name as well, and to just like icons in films, to books, to women around my life, they were my heroes. There was people that I looked up to. So I never thought Walk Like a Girl was anything other than strong and powerful. But when I went into the real world of all-boys boarding school, it was thrown at me as an insult. In the beginning, I didn't understand. But eventually, when I got to it, I understood what they were trying to do was diminish me. And I remember, I still write journal, and I wrote this title, and I said, someday I'm going to write about this. And this was like ages ago when I was in my teenage years. And so Walk Like a Girl is this idea about urging people to embrace their softness, vulnerability, because it is powerful. And in a world right now we're living in, where in popular culture, there is such a celebration of brute force, a masculinity that almost veers on caricature. I am proposing this idea, the feminine-leaning ideas, feminine-leaning people, women, anything that is that talks about accountability, vulnerability, emotion, heart-led ideas are the ones that we need really right now. Because look at what the situation and state of the world right now with brute power. We are a mess, complete mess. The only place that I feel like we can have this conversation is a place like this, which is driven by creativity, artistry, and that is a home for anything heart-led. So Walk Like a Girl is my permission to people to embrace their vulnerability because it is the power.
Prabal, when you started writing and you have flashed back into the past about rape, abuse, toxicity, divorce, marital dismantlement, almost every horror within the human experience is realized in your early years. But you have written the memoir of vulnerability at a time when you are not vulnerable. What was that inflection point where you felt, now I'm ready to talk about the horrors of rape and abuse? Did success change you, or did Vipassana change you?
My mother changed me. I attribute everything to my mother because I'm a mama's boy, unapologetically. No, I reached to a place in my life where I felt I would go out, I would notice people, I would meet people who admired my work, and, I was fortunate enough to meet them. But all they saw was the highlights of my life, which is Met Gala, fashion shows, parties, like this glamorous thing. And that is all that they equated to what success looks like. And even in our narrative, when you read the memoirs that I've read of my, let's say successful people, it's oftentimes this heroic journey. Like it's always like against all, it's really strong. There's never this story about really giving into this sorry for the lack of a better word, like this shit happened, it happened to me, and acknowledging it and letting it not, I would say, diminish you, like giving you the power, So I would say, for me, that was, like I wanted to write a story where it became, for me, like, okay, I have all these incredible stuff. I want to tell the honest truth to the people that behind every success, there are countless nights of sleepless nights, of insecurity, of unsure, like, of like, meeting deadlines, all these stuff that happens behind the thing. I always say fashion in itself is what you all see in glamorous is like 5% of what we do. 95% is sheer hard work. It's arduous. But in that arduous work, if you can give into the creativity, and luckily for me, I always, count my blessings. The fact that I was able to give into my artistry, my creativity, and storytelling, whether through words in this book or through fashion, through clothes, that was my saving grace. And you can overcome things. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah?
I'm going to go a layer beneath, as we must in fashion.
Sure.
So, your contention that fashion looks glamorous and easy, or success is beautiful, but it has hard work and challenges. Both sides are known to the world.
Yeah.
I think what I seek from you is something slightly deeper, even more than creativity. There seems to be an insistence to stay with dignity, with the sense of self. And it seems to me earlier in the book, and I've read the entire book, that your nervous system was setting you up for dignity all through. Even if you hadn't been a fashion designer and a successful one, something was going to turn right. So did you have a wrangle with dignity and self-image in your early years? And did that write the blueprint for who you are today?
I grew up with a mother who, for dignity and grace, was a practice and not a posture. She practiced. So I saw it. I saw there was, being dignified didn't mean not saying what or speaking out against what was wrong. There was a way of saying it, and it was always with grace. So for me, I'm just trying to get into since you've asked me the layers of it. For me, I would say I need to think about this, a little bit more. Yeah.
Should I ask another question in
Yeah,
the
sure, yeah,
meantime, and
go
you
for it. Yeah,
transfer
yeah,
this
yeah.
to the
Yeah,
fitting
yeah.
room in
Yeah.
your mind?
Yeah, yeah.
So you invite us, the readers, through this cover to also look at your body. And the book has both the body and body shaming and the highs. And you're dressed, I'm looking at your vest and not so much as at your jacket. So there is a negotiation through the childhood and youth and the men you have brief affairs with. There's a negotiation with the body. What does the body mean to you as a man who's actually showing his heart?
I think I always feel like your existence in totality, complete existence, unapologetically yourself, in any shape or form you are in, showing up to the world is the first sign of resistance to the world that doesn't allow you to be who you are. So how I show up, whether with a low tank top like tonight, or or in a tuxedo, or in my traditional garb, it is a way of me expressing myself. It is a way of me saying, I'm here. You don't have to look at me, but I'm also not going to budge from the space that has been allotted to me by the universe. So that's what it is. Because your body is the first, I would say, arm of revolution. How you show up, where you show up, and my hope is always with dignity and grace, because that's what I've been taught. So I hope I'm able to do that.
There is a sense one gets, and maybe because I have spent some time studying fashion, sense of color. There are color stories in your life stories. And you write about a cerulean blue uniform worn with a certain beige pants that kind of shifts you and gives you something. The cerulean blue appears many years later in a YSL-inspired fragrance. So colors, what did they mean to you? And since you have used words like a girl, and inside you have spoken about gender, do you think there are female colors and male colors in our lives?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't believe in it at all, because I also come from the continent, the country, and I also grew up in India, where we are unapologetically, we don't see those kind of distinctions. We've never seen it. So for me, like, I've seen men wearing pink, women wearing blue. It doesn't, all that stuff, like those gender norms, that is so actually like a siloed. It happens somewhere else. It didn't happen here. So for me, it was never a question of can someone wear it. It's not like and how someone wears it. That was the question, right? And so yeah, so for me, when I talk about color, there's a thing that we talk in our office. We always say stronger in color, and it is metaphorically and is also literally. Like, my collections are colorful, but so are my dinner tables. My dinner table is filled with people of different walks of life, different shapes and sizes, and it makes it interesting. I think the fact that I grew up in this part of the world, seeing different kinds of people with different stories, always made me more open than to look at beauty in a very narrow way. So, and the cerulean blue, or any shades of blue, still happens to be my favorite, but pink has got my heart. Yeah.
I want to free our conversation from the binary of victim and survivor, because I don't see you as either. Survivor is, we all are eventually. That's what existence makes out of us. You are certainly not a victim, though you do come across some very serious abusive and instances of diminishment, as you call it, rejection, and being thrown out to the periphery again and again. Did you think of yourself then as a victim, or what was going on in your mind as your nervous system was setting itself up?
I've never looked at myself as a victim. I've never understood that for myself, because I looked at myself, maybe misunderstood. Maybe I didn't fit in the world. But the thing is here, the issue, not the issue, the good thing is, in my family, with my mother and my siblings, I was completely celebrated, right? But then outside world didn't see it. So my strength comes from my family. So I never looked at myself as a victim. And I also pretty much early on realized I won't probably fit into this narrow description of what a heteronormative man should behave like or look like, but I was okay with it. I was okay with it, you know. I always say in a movie, when you watch a hero, they have few things to do. Beat up, woo a girl, be a hero. Women are a lot more layered, nuanced, the adais, the singing, like all that stuff. I love that, you know. So for me, I thought I was pretty fabulous from early on. I genuinely mean it. I never looked at myself and had a delusion about I'm greater than what it is. I knew who I was. And perhaps it was because I never got validation early on in my life because I was different. I was never allowed to fit in the group. Fitting in the group never became my mantra, never became my aim or ambition. I really enjoyed solitude. I enjoyed figuring out things by myself. By saying all this, I'm not diminishing the pain that I went through. But with that pain, however, I found strength because with all those boys who bullied me and everything, I'm at this point in my life where I'm able to kind of be like grateful to them because of that early learning of not being accepted, not fitting in, it allowed me to go to America and carve my own identity without having to try to fit in. Because trust me, the Western world tries to fit you in their box of a very limited lens. But I decided with grace and with dignity, with my own insistence, I decided to carve my own world. And luckily, I've been able to do that. I'm grateful for it.
Just for the audience, there's a very subtle pointing out to a rape attempt in your book, where you say that people, when 3 boys come to the room and one forcibly kisses you, and that moment passes, people say, no, boys are like this, no, they are bullies, no, they must be insecure, or because you are gay, they tried to make you a whore, that's a word you use. But you then reflect saying, nobody said this happened to Prabal. And that is what should have been said. So in a very subtle way, nobody validated the grievous moment you went through, which is a sexual assault. You gently bring in and you exit in 2 lines. And that kind of alerted me to the subtlety with which you are cautioning us. But what did that actual moment of sexual assault do to you?
You know, what it does is it really makes you feel helpless. You don't forget it. It makes you feel like the world is caving in. You know, the real feeling of that is genuine fear, and you never forget it. Okay, but I always look at those moments of that and any other kind of things that have been thrown at me. I look at it. I always say, I have choices here. I can acknowledge it because I don't ever not want to acknowledge. One of the reasons for writing this book is also you have to acknowledge the pain. You don't need to make the pain your ambition, but you can acknowledge the pain. And then now what do you do with it? So for me, what I did was, all right, this happened, and I tried to alert the right people and everyone. And but I was like, all right, I can move on from it. I'll never forget it. It will always live on. And, that is just not my identity. As a fashion designer, as hopefully a loving son to a mother and a sibling and friend and everyone, I'm also a survivor. So all of that is true, right? So, and that's what being human is. We go through so many things. My story is not just mine alone. My story is very similar to so many other people, millions of people out there. That's what I've realized. When I wrote this book and the messages and the emails that have come to me has been so deeply resonating to, not just to me, and it has resonated with them. It has been so empowering that it is just not me. By telling my story, I wanted to free them, but them telling their story has given me the safest space I've ever had. So I'm very grateful for that.
Prabal, as you move from Nepal to Delhi, Kathmandu to Delhi, NIFT, then Rohit or Rahul Gandhi ki party. I was fascinated by the drugs and the kissing that was going on. It's all very gay. I was still quite fascinated.
Have you seen Heated Rivalry?
I have seen a lot.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, there you go.
And then you moved to New York.
Yeah.
And even those of us who may not be in those gay parties know a little about the gay scene, and there is a kind of an eroticism that might be, but you have gently meandered out of the erotic display or feelings or sensations to go into making meaning out of them. But here is my real question. All these people, the characters that come up in your Delhi gay life and your New York gay life, obviously are men, but why are also all the villains men? Were there no women who were, because patriarchy or abuse is not either the crime or the prerogative of just men. Women also commit these crimes and these slides, and they invade boundaries. But I don't see a woman invader in your story. Was that pure coincidence?
It wasn't coincidence, and there are like, there's a story about there are a few stories about women as well in the book, that that I talk about. But for me, I look less at a gender. I look at the cause of it. That's what I'm looking at. It's like, a lot of these men, I'm not excusing their behavior, let me just put it out there, but a lot of us are victim of this patriarchal narrative of like and how a man should be and how a man can be, and often that is related to the brute force, as I mentioned earlier. But patriarchy is, as you mentioned, it's not just about gender. It is about all that stuff can be with women also. There is a story about that, but for me, again, I go back to this story about all those stuff happen. It happens to all of us consistently and constantly. My thing has always been about, okay, what can I learn from it? What can I do? And I always say, like, and I'm in a position of now some kind of audience and of a platform, so I want to tell constant stories. Like, it's just not about, like, saying, okay, you can be vulnerable, but through my fashion work on a runway shows and everything, I talk about, whether through casting, whether through storytelling, I talk about things that can be really, that are important, that are vital, that can make people feel seen. That's my job. As a creative person, as an artist, our job is to tell a story that makes even one person feel seen. That is a true job of an artist. It is not to sell the highest painting or the most expensive clothes. That is a byproduct. The real job of an artist is to make people feel seen. And that's what I hope to do. And all the stuff that you mentioned that has happened has led me to that, because had I not been through all this stuff, I don't think I could be an empath that I am today. And I'm so grateful for that. Yeah.
Empath is a beautiful word. Let me take the story now to fashion, as we call it, and the assumed superficialities around it.
Okay.
You go to Bill Blass and you start working there, and you say it's a crash course in America. Yeah. Couture, mind-blowing, hundreds of meters of fabric, big clients. What do you mean by crash course in America?
Because Bill Blass was an American couture house which catered to the 1% of the 1%. It was really a rarefied world of like how the clothes were made, and I got to see, even though we have access to the handlooms and the handwork that we in this part of the world, the work that was being done was in a slightly different way. That learning really taught me about who has the access to buying those clothes. That allows them to access to the rooms that make decisions that affects the world. You see? So fashion, I always look at it is telling of where the world is. And that Bill Blass's gowns and everything, that access to those women, where they were either had their own money, they were born into, or they were married to, and their partners were the ones making biggest decisions that affected the rest of the world. And to me, that was fascinating. And the crash course in America was that.
There is a phrase and name of one of your collections, sex symbol for thinking women?
Thinking man.
Thinking man.
Oh, boy.
How do you see yourself as a sex symbol for a thinking man?
You tell me.
I'll have to walk like a man.
There you go. There you go. No, it doesn't need to be. I mean, I feel like love and attraction and people finding people doesn't have any. It can't be bound in a sexual orientation. You know what I mean? I think and I've dated girls before. Like I find people beautiful.
Yeah.
I find people attractive. So I don't think it's so. It's we are in 2026 now. I think the description of beauty, attractive, desire. It can be has no genders anymore or sexual orientation rather.
And how do you dress up sexily? Teach me, because we are saying gender no longer matters.
Sure. I would say unapologetically yourself, which means like you're dressing for yourself. I always say the biggest lesson I hope tonight and with this book is if you can free from needing validation from the outside world, that is where the true freedom and true salvation. So that is when you're sexy. That is when you're sensual. That is when you're powerful. That is when you're graceful. And that's what I would say.
Yeah, I find your smile attractive.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
I normally pout, but yes. Yeah. Thank you very much.
There is it's not written like that, but the story has cinematic tension. It goes from surviving on an unemployment bhatta, and you're in some one room from wherever you were, and you can touch your IKEA cupboard and all that happens. And then you are on the cover of WWD, and then Anna Wintour is looking at you, and then Michelle Obama is wearing you. What the hell happened? And once it happened, how did you start लपेटना? आप समझते हैं उसको वापस कैसे
लपेटना
आप दोबारा उसको फोल्ड करके कैसे अपने क्लोजेट में रखी इतनी सारी चीजें?
अच्छा, लपेटना का
It's a metaphor for pulling, because the fabric of your life ran away. Ran away with itself. It became Prabal Gurung on WWD. It was in Vogue Awards, at CFDA, then you're at Met Gala, you're dressing a table. So then, so much fabric of life has gone. Now you're you come across as a prepared, sensible man. So how did you bring these folds
Oh my
back?
God, I wish my mom was here. I so goddamn wish my mother was here. So, she would, I hope someone's recording this,
Well, I hope so.
I'm going to be replaying it again and again and again to her. Okay. Going back to your question, did you finish the question or no? Yeah.
Finished.
Okay. It sounds like a cinematic whatever. I guess, all those years of watching Hollywood and Bollywood melodramatic films have affected my life. But isn't that what life is for all of us? It is.
No. Not Michelle Obama doesn't wear everybody. Not everybody gets to go to the Met Gala.
Yeah,
and
true.
so on. In the small world of fashion. It's a small world, but let's...
Let me just, the germination of that started with me. I think, okay, let me just sum it up with this way. My constant quest has been to be my true self, like finding myself for myself. And I'm telling you, my closed ones know this about me. I am constantly on a quest to figure out who I am, right? So that gives me this freedom to not worry too much about what everyone else is saying. So I'm like going a roundabout way of saying this to you. So I feel like Michelle Obama, Women's Wear Daily cover, everything. Oprah. Like it happened because I was on a quest to create something that I felt was beautiful. That I wanted to, that resonated with me and that would resonate with people. And that in itself landed. I showed up. I think the first thing one can do is show up. Even if it's difficult sometimes, you have to show up, do the work. Fame and everything, I didn't chase that. I did not chase at all. I can't be in control of it. It was a byproduct of what I did and what I loved. Rest just happened.
All right, it's not going to be so simple. Let's take it to the audience, and I'll wrap it later with one question. Audience, any questions can we invite, please? There's one right here.
Hello.
Hi, ma'am. Hello, sir. You've written this book, okay, where you talk about the past and a lot of things have happened in your life. So, I think there were some wounds of your life. How easy was it to go back and scratch those wounds and get it on paper?
Thank you for asking that question. It was hard. I won't lie. It was really difficult to relive those, to write it, to sit with it. It took me 7 years to write this book, and the writing part was still easy. The hardest part was when I did the audio recording. I decided to be brave and do my own recording, and I would say that was the hardest thing that I've ever done in my entire life. To relive that and those moments as if it just happened a second ago. It really, at the end of it, what I really wanted to do was, I thought about that little kid, and I just wanted to give him a hug, that I survived, and things got better. So it wasn't easy, but it was worth it. It was cathartic. Now I could let it go. Now I can move on, so yeah. I wish I could tell you it was easy, but it wasn't, yeah. Thank you for that, yeah.
Do we have another question here, please?
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank you for being that global star and being that inspiration for all of us. I'm a stylist, and I want to ask you, what is the advice you give to the next generation here?
Next generation, oh my God, I mean, I will tell you this. I rarely give advice. Because I always feel like, and I'm not giving you a PC answer, this is something I've always been comfortable in as chair of a student rather than a teacher. I can only share my stories. If I can share what I've done that has worked for me, and hopefully it might work for you, is, as I said, showing up, being diligent at it, not every day is going to be easy. Majority of the days are going to be tough, but showing up, being consistently, unapologetically yourself and believing in it and allowing yourself to make mistakes. I think I mentioned to her earlier, I said, my biggest strength, superpower, is my ability and I'm unafraid to fail. I'm unafraid to fail. And so that is what it is, because failure is the biggest lesson that teaches who you are. So I would just say, be unafraid to fail, really give into what you love doing. If you're a stylist, just give into it. Be consistent. All the stylists that you hear about in Hollywood or Bollywood, everything, they've been at it. And success doesn't happen overnight, but good luck to you.
Thank you so very
Of
much.
course.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we have questions here, but just a moment, I do want to reflect before we go there. America today, because you use these words of success and Hollywood. Today, America is still ticking those boxes: brown, South Asian, Nepali, gay, other. The boxes are still the same. America is ticking all over again. So your conviction, is it being retested?
It will constantly be retested, whether you are brown, in any part of the world, right? As a minority or not. But I always say, as a minority or someone who's othered, there are two things one you can do. It gives you the power to absorb and observe life differently and imagine a future differently. You can recreate your own future. And that is the power of being in the minority, is you don't have to follow that. You have an option to follow, or you can recreate your own. And that is the power. And I've always looked at it that way, Yeah.
Please.
Good evening.
Hello.
Thank you for coming here. And the only lit fest Malati said. So we're very excited about that.
Yes.
And I'm a lawyer, and our firm has just come out with the first of its kind of compendium for LGBTQIA rights. We spoke to a lot of people from the queer community. One of the things that we saw across the board was that people were saying that had we got the rights, or had 377 been struck down much earlier, we would have reached a lot higher on the rungs than we have now. Rohit Bal reached the pinnacle of success in India despite 377 being there for most of his career. Do you think that would have made a difference if 377 being struck down had happened a lot earlier to your decision to stay here? And how do you think people the decision to move abroad in the community happens now that the 377 has been struck down?
Thank you for asking that question. Let me just start with, I'm not an expert in all the legalities of it, so I just want to set the framework. Second thing is, I'm also not a big fan of assumption, like what could and what could have been. Like, I will say this, Gudda, Rohit, no, you can sit, please, was an icon despite of his sexual orientation. His creativity, his beauty, his storytelling. I remember I was in NIFT, and then I worked with at Manish Arora as an intern, and around that time, like, he did all the shows. That is the power. That is the power of, like, being in a marginalized or someone in a smaller group or minority, is you have the power to tell a different story. So I left for America not because of my sexual orientation. I was about to start in India. I wanted to give West a shot. Because I was about to start here in Delhi, and I was like, you know what, and my family and my brother-in-law and my brother, like, they were like, why don't you give it a shot in America? And I remember watching Oprah Winfrey show, and she talking about, believing, recreating your success, believing in all of that stuff, and I said, like, why don't I give it a shot? And I went there. Now, me being a gay person is not my full identity. I am a gay person, there's no doubt about it. I'm also a designer, I'm also a caring citizen, I'm also an entrepreneur, But I understand why. I come from an extremely privileged family. By privilege, what I talk about is privilege of thought. Okay, my mother, my brother, my sister, my brother-in-law, my father, everyone was open to the idea of who I was. So that was the biggest privilege. We didn't have privilege of money or access or anything like that. That allowed it. I know majority of the people don't have that. They don't have that, right? So all I can say is having a community, that looks like you, that surrounds you, and it is harrowing. There's no doubt about it. It is scary, and I understand that fear. Like, even during that time, I write about, like, in that party where, like, the guys are kissing and everything. I didn't think of it as anything wrong. I just thought it was like, wow, you can be yourself, And I have to attribute that to my family and my mother. So unfortunately, I'm not in a position to answer your, like, the what could have been if the thing. And I also, one thing that what I will also say is, like, progress is never linear. Progress is one step forward, 10 steps back. One step forward. And it happens simply because I believe, because for us human to really understand, because when progress keeps on happening, we take it for granted. Look at what happened in America, with democracy and everything, right? So it has to step back. So I have a full faith in this part of the world, because we are a continent that's led by heart, and I know that. We are a continent that's led by heart, and heart-led ideas are going to resolve, and turn into resolution that is going to, like, affect and impact positively a lot of people, and I know that for sure. Just a matter of time.
I have been told to
wrap up.
Yes. I had 3 questions. I'll make it multiple choice.
Oh my Lord. Okay.
So,
Sridevi. I'm just.
Okay. Your skin glows.
Oh my God! Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
multiple choice coming up. Is it because of the Shiksha Foundation in Nepal that you have founded? Is it because of self-care that starts with basmati rice and ends with baklava? Or is it because the most powerful women almost of America have worn you? Where's the skin glow coming from? Or is it because you wear a black dress and you are trying to subsume us into stories of pink or blue?
It is because of questions like this, someone like you seeing me in my full capacity, allowing me to be myself, tell my story. It's because of people like you and people in this audience, really listening and hopefully resonating to them, that has given me the strength to be myself. I don't know about the glow, but I will say the foundation, Shiksha Foundation Nepal, that we started with my siblings and my friends who are here, let me just say, it's 100% what we raise goes to the foundation, and there's no overheads and anything, and it's led by women. That has for me been one of the biggest strengths. It is also the rice and the baklava, and don't forget momos, which I really love. And honestly, I'll just say, the questions that you've asked me has made me feel seen. And honestly, when people do that, we all can glow, and we all will glow. That's why I say, maybe I should start a skincare
Yes.
product. Okay.
And you could call it empath.
Major. Okay,
Yes.
major. Okay.
All right.
When I hit the billions, I'll give you a little bit of it.
Thank you, Prabal.
Thank you very much, everyone.
That was moving for me
Thank
as a
you,
fashion journalist.
Thank you so much.
You gave me other ideas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Please do read this book.
Yes, it's out, by the way. Yes.
Book what? उनके हाथ में दो. Okay.
Yes, you sign.
Book आपके हाथ में दीजिए.
Thank you so much.